Hey ho people, it's Stylosa and Kirioff and welcome to Game Show. Now today we're going to talk about releasing unfinished games and why it's a completely disgusting crime and it should not be allowed. So Mr. Kirioff, what games are we going to be talking about first?
I have to admit, when researching this,
who are the offenders?
There's a lot of stuff to choose from, which is kind of bad. But I thought we'd focus on some of the worst offenders. The first of which, something that's become nearly infamous now, which is Sword of the Stars 2. 4X game.
Good old Paradox.
Yeah, it promised a lot. It promised a lot, the game. People were looking forward to it, but I believe there are issues, sir. Slight issues, only small issues. Like, for instance...
Small game-breaking
issues. Things like, there's the usual thing of bugs and glitches, which seem to come into every bloody game release ever at the moment. But there was also a slight problem in that a good, 50% of the features they promised were completely missing, which is never good. Things like people were complaining that when they came to build their own ship, they had placeholder graphics for the parts of the ships. Some parts were missing completely. Some tech trees didn't exist, which is quite problematic. Say you want to build a defensive vessel and there's no defense tree. That's not gonna... it was just awful. It was terrible. I have to admit, I loaded it up when it first came out because we did receive review copies.
Yeah,
I just... This is the other thing as well. No tutorial. Which, if you're releasing a 4X game...
It is massively complicated as well, though. Sword of the Stars, you've got the research element of the game is mental. Yeah. You go to look at the engines, it's like, oh, hello, sir, there's 1,000 different engines or whatever. It's like, well, but that's an exaggeration. But there's a lot of engines. It's like, good lord. But it's like Sword of the Stars has got quite a big following behind it. Especially with the 4X games. And 2 was people were looking forward to that. And it's like they've got to a point where whatever their internal development cycle was for that game, let's just say theoretically a year. So we're coming up to the 12 months. We need to release the game now. We've released the game, but the game is broke. But we'll get into this a bit later on, after we go through the examples, because there's a lot of factors when it comes into games being released prematurely.
Yeah. And another one that it's quite an old one now, but you and me, we both played Age of Conan, and it was. Yeah. I remember it as being very good until you left the starting area. And when you went into the big bad world, there was a massive gap at one point between, was it level 30 and level 50 or something, where there was just no content.
I think I was, now this is going from a very sketchy memory, I think I was level 40 something in that game, and all of a sudden there was no content. The start of the game in Tortage, I think it was called, the pirate town, was really good. There was a lot of stuff going on, a lot of quests. It's quite a good storyline. As soon as you come out of that, you come into your home cities and whatever. I remember I was, I cannot remember my race, but I was a barbarian because it's Conan, barbarian. And I remember, it looked visually impressive. The town looked great, massive, sweeping mountain ranges and all the rest of it. And a decent amount of quests. I can remember then going into the desert and doing quests and things like that. And then it just ended. It was I wasn't exactly an intensive player. I probably was above the 50% of people who were putting a lot of time into the game. But you could see what they'd done. They'd literally got the game to a point it would be okay for reviews. Because, the whole notion of reviewing an MMO is fucking retarded anyway, because it's endless. The only person who can review an MMO is somebody who's been through everything it's got to offer. But that's not how certain outlets operate. So what they'd do is they would review the first 10 levels or 20 levels maybe, which was really good. So it's getting quite good reviews. People are like, oh, this game's amazing. But then unfortunately, when you got to around about level 40, I can remember there was nothing. There was loads of missing NPCs. You literally just had to grind mobs, kill the same mobs over and over and over again. And there was another thing as well with it had dungeons in it, and I think there were duo and solo dungeons, instances. But there was one that you just literally kept doing over and over again, and that was it. That was how you leveled, and it was really bad. But that is really bad.
The thing that was astonishing with that was the fact that the first 20 levels were so good. because the area was so polished. It was unbelievable. It was the best start to an MMO I think I've ever come across. And then suddenly,
well, it was pretty good. That's a bit fucking high praise.
I really
it was
thought
good.
I never got bored of it. This is the thing. I mean, it's easy to get bored when you start a new character, but in Age of Conan, I never did because I don't know whether it was the fact that it was a bit more grown up or the storylines they picked. But
it was a
double, it was just really good. And then suddenly it was just everyone went, oh great, I've got to this level. What's next? Sorry, nothing. We've got a zone, but there's nothing in the zone but mobs. So enjoy your grind for the next 10 levels. That's quite bad. That's not something that should have been released. But the next one, and this is going to upset people, although they all know it's true deep in their hearts, is Bethesda. And the reason that it's not a specific game is because Bethesda are
every game.
They are terrible for releasing games full of bugs, and it's not just like a one-off either. I mean, if it was a one-off, you could say, oh, well, perhaps there is I don't know, maybe there's high staff turnover or something, some excuse, but no, every game it's like you go in and you just wait because within the first half an hour you're going to see something stupid happen, and it could be anything. You could fall to the floor, you could end up being teleported across the map. It's like a gamble, isn't it? It's just it's a new Bethesda game. What's going to kill me first? A mob or a bug? I don't know.
Or a tree or a rock? Yeah. Or this door, I'm gonna, oh shit, I've been killed. Yeah, mad. I mean, Skyrim, to be fair, didn't seem to have that many in it. What I was waiting for was Skyrim. I mean, although it did have patches come out quite rapid. It was like the game breaking bug, which is like, you get to a point in the main quest and you cannot complete it. This has happened in loads of Elder Scrolls games, so you turn up, it's like, oh hello, go and talk to this NPC, but the NPC is not there. In fact, he'd probably be fused into a wall or something. It's like he's there, but you can't talk to him, or he just wouldn't respond, or you couldn't complete that quest, or this item hasn't spawned, and there's just loads of problems in it. It's like, oh my god. But the thing with Bethesda is, they've got to the point of practically everybody loves them. Yeah. So, it's going to be buggy. It's kind of like a joke. It's like, oh well, there's going to be bugs in this, but people let them off because when the games do get to a finished state, they generally are the best in that genre. I mean, particularly the open world RPG. Okay, their combat's pretty bad in every game they've made. I mean, I absolutely hated the combat in Fallout.
Yeah, I couldn't stand
New Vegas. That literally stopped me playing the game. That did. I just couldn't handle it. I was like,
so the thing that there was two things that stopped me in Fallout 3. One was the combat, because it just was clunky and crappy and didn't feel very good. And the other was, in fact, something that you've already mentioned, which was I went to do a quest. I had to meet a guy either on a bridge or under a bridge. I wasn't sure which one it was. And this was not very far into the game as well. This was only just after you left the vault.
Was he in the bridge?
He was just nowhere. He didn't exist. It was on the map, it quite clearly showed me where he was. And on the little quest mark at the bottom where you get the arrow showing where he was, no matter where I went, there was nothing there. It was just desolate. And it wasn't like I'd killed him either, because there was nothing alive for a mile radius. And it was just this is the only thing I've got to do, and it's not there. What? I can't do anything else.
I think people out there have just got literally thousands of examples of this, because it is mad. Oh my god. Who've we got next then? Who's the next offender?
Well,
criminal?
I think something else that's, not just in terms of bugs and stuff, but something else that's quite bad is games like Space Marine, where things are promised and nothing happened.
Oh yeah, I fucking hate that. I hate that. I hate that.
I mean, that was with Space Marine. The biggest disappointment for me was there was co-op announced, and it was announced. They said it was going to happen, and then the game launched, and it was like, no, it's single player. And then there was multiplayer, which was crappy and peer-to-peer and didn't work very well. And then it turned out that the co-op was just a horde mode. Now, that's not what was advertised in the first place, and the co-op that they advertised in the first place took about, a month to make it into the game after release?
Yeah, I remember really looking forward to Space Marine co-op, running through my battle brother, nearly spilled my tea, battle brother Kirioth, good lord, slashing orcs to pieces and smashing chaos, good lord. But no, that wasn't there.
It just didn't happen.
And then, no, it didn't. And when the multiplayer, because the multiplayer was delayed as well, wasn't it? When that came out, that was pretty bad, really quite bad. And then I think it was Exterminatus DLC, which was free. Now this is laughable. It's this is DLC and it's free. It's not DLC. It should have been in the game at launch. And you didn't even have it ready then. So what you've tried to do, some like crappy marketing tactics are, we'll just call it free DLC and then it'll be fine. But it was terrible. Like Kiri said, it was just like a last stand horde mode. You know, you attacked hundreds of monsters, just kept spawning, which was, okay, it was pretty funny. There is a video on the channel of us playing it. But that's the only time I've played it.
I never went back to it because it was just what was promised and what I wanted was the campaign, but co-op, and it was just like, no, sorry, you're not having that. It's just I can't even call it lazy. It's just bad planning. It's promising things that can't be delivered. I mean, the final example really for this kind of thing is it's actually World of Warcraft. Now, if you remember when Wrath of the Lich King came out,
in what sense?
One of the things that was promised was, and I don't particularly care about this because I was never interested in this side of it, but a dance studio. Now, I know it's only a small thing and it's not really important to the game, but it was on the box, it was on the posters, it was published everywhere. It was, oh yeah, and you'll be able to customise your character even more with new dances. And I believe that the Mr. Pandaria is on the way. It's still not in the game. Now, that's like 2 expansions have gone by pretty much. By the time Mr. Pandaria come out, that'll be 2 expansions away. And something that was promised in Wrath is not in the game. If you can't do it, don't promise it. It's that simple. It's like...
I was trying to... let me just explain while I was off the screen. I was trying to find my box of Wrath because... in fact, I'll just Google it. What the hell am I even... What am I going through my drawers for? What the hell?
But I remember it being quite a big thing because it was one of those things where people wanted more customization for the characters because, let's face it, in WoW everyone looks the same because there's not a great amount of variation between faces and all that kind of thing. And it just never happened. And it's just been ignored, really. There's never been a, oh yeah, we misjudged it, sorry. It's never been said, yes, we shall release it now. It's just been like, did we? Oh, I don't remember. You know, it's
I can't remember which one it was, but what I'm sure one of the WoW games was it was supposed to have aerial combat in the battlegrounds. Or
yeah,
something.
That was Wrath as well, I think.
Was that Wrath? Because I was trying to find it in my box down here. My head's gone again, but it's back. It's okay.
I can't remember. I don't think that really made it in either. I mean, I seem to remember there being a daily quest where you could get in a bomber and bomb stuff. But again, that's not really aerial combat, is it? That's just another scripted event. So,
I mean, things with MMOs, you can kind of let them off because they have got 1,001 things going on. The problem is, if you've gone to the extent of putting this onto the box art, then you're falsely advertising aspects of your product, which is just not even there. And that's, I think we'll come into the wrapping up section now. I mean, we're like, you see these games that release on Steam, you know, we're not just talking AAA developers, although arguably they should never release a game that isn't finished, but they do. Indie developers and all the rest of it. It doesn't matter who you are. If you're developing games, you should never produce or put a game, you know, to live effectively when it's not finished. Because, I mean, the best example I've got of recent examples is we made Is It Pure of Legends of Pegasus, which was a 4X space strategy game. On the face of it, and off the marketing material, looked really good. You know, massively in depth, loads of detail, great visuals and all that stuff. But the game was absolutely broke. So on launch, now this is the time where a lot of reviews are going to be completed, you know, especially of outlets like us. You know, we're a YouTube channel. Probably a load of other YouTube channels have done Legends of Pegasus stuff. Even official places like, you know, IGN and all the rest of it. They would have probably done it come launch or maybe had a preview build. But how could they have had a preview build if the game was so destroyed? It's like that company have released that game and committed suicide. There's no coming back. You know, there's too much stuff out there now saying the game's terrible and it'll never recover. And that's one aspect of it, I think. And the other aspect being like the false advertising of it all.
I mean, on the one hand, it is part of it is that, you know, if they release an unfinished game, they're going to get smashed for it, which is, in some ways, it's kind of...
Oh, yeah.
It's not nice, but in some levels, I suppose it's kind of fair because it is
justice. It's
because it's the fact is that you're not paying 35 quid for a broken game. You're not paying money to be unable to play the game as it was intended. You're not paying for the game to be fixed over the next 3 months. When you hand your money over for a game, you need a functional product. If you buy a car and it breaks down on the way home, you will take it back.
Well, that's a great example. You look at anything in the real world, that's not a digital product like a game or whatever. You do not buy a telly. You do not buy a fridge. You do not buy a freezer. You do not buy a cooker, and it does not work, or only some of it works, and the rest of it will be installed later. No. You take the product straight back. Yet there seems to be like this thing where it's becoming like, oh, it's fine. It's fine. I think we need to, like, as far as games go, I think we need to look at some of the reasons why this would be the case. So I think, first of all, I'd say, a lot of it is obviously to do with money. So if you have a certain amount of investment to produce a game, the investors are going to want that game made, on a certain deadline. So let's go back to my 12-month example I used before, so a year. You would expect the game to be fully finished and go live then. But if the game's not finished, what do these developers do? Are they really getting that much pressure put on them from the investors? Are the investors so stupid they don't realise that if the game, is released in a smash state, they're going to make no money? They're just going to get slated and lose money. It's, or is it just literally come down to, I don't know, try a quick cash grab off things like, that was my email as well, I apologise, like pre-orders and things like that, because that's kind of another scam as well, getting games that are pre-ordered. It's like, why pre-order games?
It's the thing that gets me with pre-orders is where you can pre-order the game, but no information has been released about it. It's just stuff that the studio or the publishers put out. They'll say this game will have this, this, and this, and yet there's no like open beta, there's no public beta, there's an NDA until the day the game's out. That's kind of what happened with Legends of Pegasus. There was no information about the game. It was just, this is a 4X game. We'll be able to do this, this, and this. Oh, can we have a look? No. And then it comes out, and surprise, surprise, half of it's bloody missing or broken. And it's that to me is it's beyond dishonest, because that to me indicates they know something's wrong. And if they know something's wrong, they should fix it, not just try and con people into getting it anyway. That said, I think quite often it is down to things like shareholders and stuff. If a company said, we can produce this game in a year and it will turn however much profit, and then that release date, they say, actually, this isn't good enough for release. Frankly, there are not a lot of investors in the world who will say, oh, we'll take another 6 months. I've put my money on this, I want it back right now, off you go. Which, unfortunately, there's not a lot can be done about it, because that's just how it works now.
Well, this is one of the reasons why things like Kickstarter is getting so popular. I mean, the best example I've got is Planetary Annihilation, which is like a massive scale Supreme Commander. Well, it's from Total Annihilation, but through Supreme Commander to Planetary Annihilation, where it's on an interstellar scale, massive. But there's no way that game would ever have been, backed traditionally, because this it ties in with movie studios as well. Investors, they tend to want the sequel, because the sequel is what's going to make the money. You look at Avengers, that's made loads of money. So you'll have Avengers 2, Avengers 3, Avengers 4. There'll just be loads of them. They'll just keep coming out because it's making money. So it kind of like, you see it in the game world, Call of Duty. Every year there's like different, it's the same game, just coming out over and over again, because it's like a surefire bet for investors. That's a StarCraft. Because I've got a StarCraft t-shirt on. It's like a surefire bet they're going to make money off that. But Kickstarter comes along and the crowdsourcing platforms start coming along, and it's like all of a sudden, there's me giving money to a game which I want to see made, and they've made God knows how much cash now. It's just getting ridiculous, and that's probably the only shining light in all of this, that from what I can see. But I mean, the releasing of unfinished games is just surely as a consumer, you have rights against this type of thing. You've bought something that does not work, you should be able to get your money back, and all the rest of it. These companies should be taken to court. Minor bugs, whatever. I'm talking game-breaking bugs that stop you from playing the game or not getting a product which has been promised. So you're going to get this game, it'll have multiplayer. You get the game, it's got no multiplayer. Well, hang on, I bought the game for multiplayer. What tough shit. That's not right. That is not on.
It doesn't happen anywhere else. So why it's become... I wouldn't say it's become commonplace in gaming, but it's it's there, and it's there far more than it should be. It's no longer an isolated incident. It's something that actually happens kind of regularly, which I don't know whether that shows something about the fact that people aren't standing up for themselves in terms of this kind of thing, or whether it's just the general direction of the industry where the investors have got all the say and all the power. But
I know, but I think sometimes we might be getting a bit too easy to say it's investors who are the problem, because in
some cases
you'll never entirely know.
It could just be laziness.
Yeah,
which would probably be even worse. But it's something that I think if people were more active about it, maybe it wouldn't happen as much. Yeah. Maybe it's something that the community as a whole sort of needs to say, well, if you're going to provide me with an unfinished game, I'm just going to hassle you until I get my money back, because it's all too easy to put it down to, oh, well, I've lost some money, but it'll be fixed eventually. That's not the point. It might be fixed eventually, but you didn't pay for a game eventually. You paid for one now. So...
and you didn't get what was advertised. Crushing. Okay, guys, I take part in the discussion. Comments below. We read the comments. We will reply to the comments. Make sure you click the links in the description. Make sure you follow us, subscribe to us on YouTube, because we're the absolute best, and you know that by now. And hopefully you're loving this better version of Game Show where we've got the webcams all sorted out with the green screen, because it looks amazing. And I think we'll catch you next time, Mr. Kiryov.
We will indeed, sir. Toodaloo.
We will indeed. Toodaloo. Woohoo!